Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to take a moment again to thank Ms. Ambrose for her courage and willingness to share her family's tragic story. Without a doubt, Desiree Robinson's story sharpens my personal resolve to find solutions that will move us forward. It's difficult to fathom Ms. Ambrose's pain and anger, or to know that thousands of other families across the nation have shared her grief. As a mom of a 2.5-year-old girl, I am grateful to her for her willingness to speak with us today. Every year, thousands of sex trafficking cases are reported across the U.S. According to the National Human Trafficking Hotline, 156 of those cases were in Illinois last year. This year, at least an additional 75 cases have been reported in Illinois, and that's just reported. These statistics are truly alarming, and worse yet, they reflect only a fraction of the problem. Ms. Suarez, you highlighted that NCMEC has received nearly 10,000 reports of suspected sex trafficking on its cyber tip line. You also emphasized the underreported nature of child sex trafficking crimes. Do you have any sense of the full scope of these crimes, and are there any existing mechanisms that could be leveraged to better understand the scope of these crimes? In talking to Ms. Ambrose, for example, she said, look, these kids are coming home at the end of the day, they're getting pimped out, they're going out there, they're coming back, the families don't know. Oftentimes the children, the victims, are being threatened with the safety of their families to keep quiet. So how do we even get our arms around what the full scope is?
Thank you, Senator. It is a very difficult problem. NCMEC takes the position that we will rely on our own numbers. There are quite a few numbers out there, quite a few call centers and hotlines that receive these types of reports. And currently, I think it's important to understand there's no requirement that incidents of child sex trafficking be reported to the National Center as a clearinghouse on those issues. So the reports we receive are voluntary. It is wonderful that we do receive the volume we have, but because it's not mandatory, that is another reason why we know it is not near the full number. The other complicating factors, as you mentioned, are many of these children are still in their homes. They may not necessarily have left. They may still be in school to some extent. So it is very difficult to identify and also to have those adults who are in place, whether it's parents, communities, teachers, medical workers, be cognizant of the potential warning signs that a child might be being trafficked. It's an area that we focus on a great deal in our prevention and education work, as well as the operational work we do. We obviously would like to be able to intervene and help communities intervene before a child is lured into trafficking, or before they end up on Backpage or another website.
Is there anything that health-related agencies, and as you mentioned, federal law enforcement agencies, can help us to paint a clearer picture, since there's no national mandatory reporting clearinghouse?
I think every law enforcement agency certainly keeps its own numbers and statistics that are very valuable. But again, there is an issue with these victims reporting, or also communities identifying what they are suffering truly as trafficking. And there is a bit of a disconnect. And I would go back again to the importance of education and the realization that this happens in every community. So when law enforcement sees or hears, or a teacher feels like they are hearing or seeing a situation involving a child who might be trafficked, they need to acknowledge that could be what is happening. Again, I think there is a resistance often to accepting that this does happen in every large and small community here in the U.S. So I would say education and awareness again.
Thank you. Thank you. Attorney General Becerra, good to see you again. It was a pleasure to serve with you in leadership and in the House. I don't think anyone is under the illusion that a silver bullet exists to eliminate sex trafficking altogether. But most stakeholders agree addressing the legal inconsistencies between sex trafficking laws and Section 230 would strengthen the hand of courts and of prosecutors. Aside from the legal inconsistencies that I hope SESTA will address, what additional barriers undermine or limit your ability to attack sex trafficking head-on?
I will tell you that California has pretty decent law when it comes to this issue. Our biggest obstacle is SESTA, because we can't move forward on the sex trafficking and pimping charges because of the court rulings that say that the Section 230 protection makes it impossible for us to move forward on some of those prosecutions. If we could get past that, we would be able to help so many of these kids so much quicker.
Do these websites actively help the people posting change the wording of the ads in order to skirt the law?
We've seen evidence of that, and that's the disturbing part, is that that's a knowing act, and that's where we could go after someone under a bill like 1693. But again, without the authority to do so, we're constantly told by too many courts, you don't have the authority.
Thank you. I yield back.